pleased to bring you our feature presentation.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another Beta Alpha Psi meeting. We also had a hiccup earlier today with the Zoom outage, but we were able to get through that, so yay. But today we have Carmine Scaglione from Crum Forster come speak to us today. Again, if you are on Zoom, please turn your cameras on if possible. And again, let's have an interesting and engaging conversation. And remember, reminder, members and candidates, please stay behind at the end of the meeting for some announcements in regarding to induction night and BAP in general. But with that being said, I'll let Carmine take it away.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, I'll share my screen. Let me give you a slideshow. It's been a while since I presented. All right. Okay, so I got two people in the room. That's okay. How many people we have online, just so I know?
I think we got two virtually, and I believe one. How many people we have at forum in person?
I think we have four of us, yeah.
All right.
Amazing.
So funny thing, I actually work down the street from the Forum campus. So if you drive down Madison Avenue and you're coming from 287, you'll see a building that has this glass pyramid in the very front of the building. I'm not sure if any of you have seen that, but that's our building. That's Crum Forster's building. We've been there for as long as I can remember. But I mean, I've been with Crum Forster for 18 years, but we've been there since the building opened up. Crum Forster is a 200-year-old company. We celebrated our 200th anniversary a couple of years back, and we've been, so we've been around for a long time. So, but I'll talk a little bit more about Crum at the very end. And thinking about what I wanted to talk about today, I figured I'd just give you some perspective about. And I apologize for those of you who are not accountants. I'm an accountant, and so this is going to be very kind of accountant focused. But I think there's a lot of stuff I'll talk about from the experiences you have during your career and things that happen along the way that will be relevant to all of you. So again, I'm Carmine Scaglione. I work with Crum Forster, and I am the controller of Crum Forster. I reported to the CFO. And I've been at Crum for 18 years. Prior to that, I was at a company called Telcordia, and then prior to that, I was at KPMG. But I'll walk you through that. Just to give you a little bit of my background, I do have a BS in accounting from the TNEC campus, or the Metro campus. I haven't been back here probably in 30 years, so that kind of gives you a little bit of perspective on how old I am. But so when I was here, everything that all the stuff we did was on the other side of campus. The only thing that was really here was the Rothman Center. This building actually was, I think, part of the dentistry school. And Fairleigh Dickinson did have a dental school back in the mid 80s. I think my freshman year was the last year of it. I also have an MBA in finance from Rutgers University. I got that as I was working. I'm a certified public accountant. I don't practice any longer, but it's a nice distinction if you can get it and maintain it. I started my career with the Big Four. Back then, it was the Big Six. When I accepted my offer, it was actually the Big Eight. I went to Europe for the summer. Backpacked. When I came back, it was the Big Six, and then shortly, some years after, I became the Big Four. I worked in audit, tax. I worked in a software company and an insurance company. So, it's pretty varied experience. And so I thought maybe just talking to you guys a little bit about what it's like to kind of, the things that happened to me during my career, to give you that perspective. But I thought I'd start with just some quotes. And again, I apologize for those of you who are not accountants. This is very accountant focused. And if you're considering going back for a master's, I recommend going back for accounting, just because there really is a shortage, and we can't seem to find enough accountants. And for you finance majors, there's plenty of accounting jobs at corporations. We literally find that we're hiring mostly finance people now at this point, and then they typically go back and take some accounting classes. But everybody knows Warren Buffett. Basically, he talks about accounting being the language of business, right? And so, and that's very true in that with an accounting degree, there's nothing you can't do from a business aspect, whether it be a CFO, CEO, go into other areas of running businesses. If you understand the language of accounting, debits, credits, balancing, you have a good perspective on how to run a business or how to manage a business. Another quote is the essence of accounting is accountability, right? And so it's basically a scorecard of the performance of the corporation, the performance of the management team, and their decisions. And then I like this quote, and I kind of put it in here just because it's kind of ironic. The quotes by Arthur Anderson, who, if you guys have been around or understand, they used to be one of the big six, and they're no longer one of the big six. But the quote is, good accounting doesn't make bad decisions good, it just makes bad decisions obvious, right? And the reason I found that ironic, and for those of you who don't know, Arthur Anderson was the accountant on Enron, right? And that transaction and the issues there actually took down that entire firm. Today, you only know them as Anderson Consulting. That's all that's left of it. And then the last quote I have in here, and it's just, and it's just that life is like accounting, everything must be in balance. And I'll touch on that a little bit later, but like anything else, work, your personal life, you have to maintain balance in everything you do. You have to kind of manage your organization to be balanced, because you can't, you can be demanding, but you don't want to be to the point where you're demanding and it's putting people's lives out of balance. And what I mean by out of balance is that one aspect is taking more of their time, carrying more of the weight, and it just causes issues on the other side. So at Crum Forster, and in my area, we strive to have that balanced work life. So that's kind of where I wanted to just kind of get those quotes out there. And just, again, I'm a little biased for, as an accountant, but, I personally think it's probably one of the better majors to get into, in that there's nothing you can't do, there's nothing that you don't understand, and that every door is open to you. So I just wanted to kind of talk a little bit about as you guys are graduating and you start getting out into the world and you start your careers, I just want to talk about kind of it's really a process of exploring and finding your fit, right? The journey you'll be on will be nothing like a straight line, right? If you had asked me when I was in school and I was an accounting major, first thing people told me, oh, you're an accounting major, you're going to make a lot of money. I'm not sure. I'm still waiting for that, the second half of that to actually come to fruition. But my vision was I'd be an accounting major. I'd graduate as an accountant. I'd go to a firm. I'd work in a firm. I would be, work my way up, become a partner, start my own firm. My perspective was very much of being, that traditional accountant that who did taxes and did audits and things like that. But you'll find that there's so many other opportunities that present themselves, and you just have to be willing to explore those different opportunities and find what is the perfect fit for you. I did a lot of different things. I made a lot of pivots, and I'm kind of where I am today. And again, the next second point here is just to kind of mention that accounting is not a one size fits all. There are so many different things that you can do. I just kind of encourage you to be curious about what you're doing. Don't be afraid to try different things. There's so many ways to apply the disciplines you learn in accounting to business, to, various aspects of, what you do, even from just the analytical perspectives that you can bring and the understanding you have in understanding what, the finances of a company. And, again, be open-minded to what those opportunities are. And you'll see a little bit of that when I walk you through my path and my journey. And so I'll save a little of that discussion for when we get there. And I guess the other thing is kind of to expect, unexpected turns and twists, right? Your career path, again, is not going to be what you originally thought. It's going to have plots, it's going to have twists, it's going to take turns, opportunities are going to present themselves. Some things may work out, some things may not work out. There's going to be success, there's going to be failure, but those are all part of the process, right? Those are all part of what builds you and makes you the professional that you're going to be someday, right? I mean, if everything was just textbook, you would come out of school, you'd know everything, but the reality is you learn on the job as you go along. And you take that approach in everything you do and try to make sure that you're absorbing and you're growing. And that, you're going to have to make pivots. And sometimes those pivots will be easy, right? Someone offers you a better job, making a ton more money, and, it's an easy decision. But sometimes those pivots are laterals or even a step back, right? And if that doesn't mean that, you aren't, you are moving forward. It's just sometimes you have to redirect. And so, you have to be willing to step out of your comfort zone. You have to be willing to try new things. You have to be willing to explore and push yourself. I mean, when you push yourself, that's when you accomplish the things that you never expected. And then you always fall back to the education that you got here at Fairleigh Dickinson, to the experiences you'll get in your earlier positions. I know, some of you are, going into, assurance positions at firms. Those are great opportunities to learn and get experience and understandings and perspective, right? That's what life's about, right? Learning, understanding, perspective, that makes you a well-rounded professional. So I talked about maybe going to my journey a little bit. So I just want to kind of explain why I have this chart. I'm not trying to show you what the stock market will do or anything like that. For me, that kind of describes my career, right? There's been some ups, there's been some downs, back up, down again, a lot of different things that have transpired. But that there's nothing wrong with that. I kind of look at it this way, I have a goal of where I want it to be. And we'll just say that's the very far right of this chart, right? And I have, and I am where I am today, right? And so as you move forward in your career, there are going to be things where, where you're moving ahead. And again, sometimes you make decisions to redirect and you take a step back to position yourself for growth again. And so as long as you're growing over time, it's kind of like the stock market, right? If you have a longer window of time or a time horizon, you're going to have growth over that period. But, don't always get caught up in not, having a vision of today I'm an accountant, the next year I'll be a senior accountant, then I'll become a supervisor and then a manager. Like it doesn't work that way. And that's true about life, right? Life doesn't always go as you plan, but you redirect, you bounce back, and you keep pushing forward. And as long as you have that goal of where you want to be at the end of the day, that's really what's driving you. And for me in my career, a lot of the decisions I've made have been to give myself that well-rounded experience of the very different aspects of business that would position me for the position I'm in today and for the position I hope to have in the future. And so with that, I'll kind of walk you through my journey a little bit. Kind of did it very high level. I put in, obviously it started for me at FDU, but my real journey started as a 12-year-old, right? I'm a first generation US citizen. So my parents were immigrants and they immigrated here. So as a 12-year-old, my parents weren't formally educated here, but as a 12-year-old, I was introduced to balancing checkbooks, right? As I got older, I started, taking care of my father's small business books. And so I was introduced to finance very young. And that's where my journey started. So, and that's what, I thought an accountant would be, but that's what led me to accounting. And I got my bachelor's in accounting here at FDU many years ago. I won't put a date on it again because I look a little younger than my real age, so I won't let you, you guys can guess, but I won't share that with you. I was very fortunate to be recruited out of Fairleigh Dickinson to KPMG. At the time, it was Pete Marwick, right? I mentioned that when I graduated, they were the big eight. So Pete Marwick was one of those eight. Pete Marwick was acquired by KPMG my summer while I was in Europe. And so when I came back from Europe, I had a letter indicating that, that I'll be working at KPMG and that they had acquired Pete Marwick. I started off on the audit side, right? And so, I would go out to clients and meet with the various leaders of the business. And it was a great opportunity. It was a great time to get experience. And what I loved about working for, an accounting firm was that, every month or so, I went to another company, right? So I got exposed to, various companies in various industries. The other great aspect of going to an accounting firm, and if you have the opportunity, I highly recommend it, even if that's not the path you want to choose, right? It's for the fact that you get exposure to levels of management that you never get exposed to when you started a company at the ground level, right? So I'm on the job for 3 months, and I have to go talk to the CFO about an issue we find in one of the account reconciliations that we reviewed, right? It's a pretty intimidating thing. I'm 21 years old. I'm talking to a CFO who's in his mid-50s, who has more of an understanding, but you're exposed to those interactions. So when I finally left KPMG, I was never intimidated talking to the CFO. So that was great experience. But, my goal was always to be like a senior financial officer in a company, whether it be the controller or CFO. That was always my goal. And so I thought it was more important to jump into tax, and that's not a normal track for many people. You either go audit or go tax. And so that was the first step back I took, right? I was up for a supervising senior, one step away from manager, and I took a step back, and I actually didn't, I had to go back to stay at the senior level as opposed to move ahead to that supervising senior position. But my end goal was to become well-rounded, to have experiences that kind of positioned me for that leadership role at a corporation, understanding the accounting and finance, but also understanding the tax components of it. And so I finished my career there. Maybe I would have made higher level. I left as a supervising senior. I was recruited out of KPMG by a senior manager who had left KPMG and went to a company called Telcordia. Telcordia was a software development company for the phone, the Bell Lab companies, and I started off there in their corporate tax area. And again, that was my next pivot happened there. I went back to get my MBA in finance. I wanted to get to the business side. I wanted to run a business, right? And so Telcordia had 10 different businesses. And so I wanted to run one of those businesses. I went back, got my MBA, and then moved into one of the management of one of the business units. Started off with a small one, and I grew there to managing the largest business, and as the CFO of that business, reporting into the president of that business. And so again, another step back. People had envisioned me as taking over the tax function and being the lead of that tax area. The person in charge of tax was senior and was retiring in a couple of years, but that wasn't what my path was. And so again, be willing to take a step back to move forward. One step back, 2 steps forward. So graduated with my MBA, jumped into the business side, and did that for several years. And then an opportunity presented it to get into corporate planning, right? And be part, get into the CFO function within Telcordia. And again, I was running the largest business there. It was, again, not a traditional move. But for me, it was about financial planning and analysis was another check. It was another tool I wanted to put in my toolbox to make sure I was well-rounded so that when the opportunity presented itself to get that senior position in a company, I had that there. And so, unfortunately, Telcordia had some tough times and, so they were going through acquisitions, so they were being acquired. At that point, I made the jump over to Crum Forster and went from a software company to an insurance company. And the one thing I can say, it's probably the best move I've made in my career. And I've been there for 18 years. So I've only had 3 jobs in my career, which is probably something that's going to be uncommon for a lot of you. But once I found the right place, there was no reason to leave because there was always opportunity. I started there off as an accounting research manager, and again, it was a level beneath where I was in my old company. Compensation was comparable, but I saw a lot of opportunity there. Within 3 months, I started acquiring different areas and responsibilities, and so I slowly took over accounting and reinsurance operations, and basically worked my way up to becoming the controller, and that's my position today. And so a lot of steps that maybe wasn't traditional, but it's always having the view of becoming an executive or a senior financial position in the corporation, and I'm not at my goal yet, because I want more. Obviously, you should always want more. You should always want to grow and improve. But it's been a nice ride so far, and I'm looking forward to riding it out into the sunset, in the future. So that's a little bit about my journey, and so I thought it'd be important to kind of share with you some of the lessons learned along the way. Right? Because if you can't learn from the things that you're doing, you don't evolve. If you can't evolve, you don't grow. If you don't grow, new opportunities don't present themselves. For me, it was always about growing, trying to acquire as much knowledge as possible. And a lot of that now is it's actually changed a little bit. Is I'm trying to bestow as much information and knowledge as I can and share that with people. And as you work your way up, what I always found interesting, it was a hard transition for me as the controller, was all along my career, my success and my performance was I controlled, right? So I was the one doing everything. Right. So I wanted to get something done. I did it. If it was successful, I got the accomplishment was mine. As you move up in level, it becomes less about you and becomes more about the team. Right. My most important role right now as controller is to get the most out of my team, to give them the resources they need, the training they need, the development that they need to make them successful. So, but I'll just kind of go through this. I do want to leave some time for you guys to ask questions, so I'm going to try to go to about 10 after, quarter after. If I talk a little too much, just raise your hand on the little Zoom thing, or somebody in the room throw something at me, because I don't, I'm not shy, and I can talk for the whole hour if you allow me to. So I think you kind of picked up on the first one already, right? You never know an opportunity will knock, right? And so when I started at Crum Forster, I was in a very technical accounting position, right? I was in charge of special projects and accounting research. That's what I went there for. I was looking forward to kind of growing into that position. Within 3 months, I was offered another position in a function and a type of accounting that I had no experience with, had no understanding of. But when the CFO says, hey, listen, we think this be a great opportunity for you. We really think you can help the corporation out by taking this position. You know, you have to give it some serious thought. And I could have been short-minded and said, hey, that's not really what I want to do. But, you know, again, you don't know what, and then that gets into like, you know, be adaptable, right? You don't know what the next opportunity is. And so I said, listen, I'll do whatever the team needs, right? It demonstrated to management that I'm a team player. I picked up things very quickly. I made changes very quickly. We improved the performance of the function very quickly. So there was a lot of kind of accolades that came along with it, or recognition that came along with it that led to other opportunities, right? And so that first opportunity was, you know, no one, and I'm not sure if you guys know what reinsurance is, but just to give you insurance 101, right? Policyholders buy policies from an insurance company to offset the risk of some type of exposure, whether it be personal liability, general liability, auto liability, or whatever. That insurance company makes a promise to that policyholder. It says, hey, if something goes wrong, I will be there for you, right? I will help you through that situation or that loss, right? Reinsurance is insurance for insurance companies. So I may accept an exposure or risk that is a little bit larger than my appetite. So I then share that with another insurance company who's called a reinsurer, and they take that risk from me. So they're providing me protection that allows me to provide the policyholder protection. So at the highest level, that's what insurance is. And then if you're going to take one other thing away from what insurance is, there's two aspects. One is risk protection and things of that nature, but the other side of insurance is investment. So we have your policy, we have your premium, we invest that premium while we're not paying out the claim, and then over time we pay out claims. So it's called the float. We utilize that float to make investment income. So underwriting income and investment income are the two, you know, is the lifeblood of any insurance company, just as a quick FYI. Lifelong learning, right? I hit on that as well, right? You always have to want to improve yourself. You always want to, you know, you always want to grow. You always want to kind of get perspectives, right? You know, I'm at the point where, you know, it's not about education. For me, a lot of it is kind of self-help type things, reading books, reading articles, listening to podcasts, things that give me a perspective that's different than what I do today, right? And today, managing the world today is a lot different than managing the world when I started, right? It's actually a much friendlier environment than when I started. When I started, things were a little crazy, and you know, if I were to tell you stories of how things, you know, interactions I had, you probably wouldn't believe them. Communication skills are as important as your technical skills, and I'll read that twice, right? Communication skills are as important as your technical skills, right? You may be the most technical person, and you may be able to do the analysis. If you can't communicate that to your superiors, right, then, you know, it serves you and the company no benefit, right? So some of the biggest frustrations that, you know, myself and some of the managers on my team have is that some of our staff, you know, their communication skills aren't as strong as they should be. And so I just emphasize, don't lose focus of that, right? Because you want to be able to communicate your thoughts, you want to be able to communicate your conclusions, you want to be able to get credit for the things that you know and the things you're able to do, right? And if you can't communicate that effectively, you know, it's hard to get that credit. The next one is networking opens doors. And so you can get to a certain level based on what you know, but to get to that next level, it becomes about who you know and the relationships you have with others, right? And so I just encourage you to develop and grow those relationships throughout your career. Do not take for granted the people that you meet along the way, right? Because you never know, you know, where other opportunities may come from, or those connections open doors for you, you know, and You know, I have to admit, probably networking is probably my weakest skill, right? And, you know, I feel, you know, I could be a better networker. I sometimes I'm very focused on the task at hand and I lose sight of some of those personal skills that you need to have, right? And so, I can't encourage that enough that, you know, networking is important. You know, you're gonna make mistakes along the way, right? That's part of life, right? But those mistakes are opportunities to learn, right? Some of them are the best opportunities to learn, right? I mean, making a mistake and having to admit that mistake to your superiors, if that doesn't teach you to not do that again, I'm not sure what will, right? And so as a manager, I don't have problems with people making mistakes. And I encourage them to come talk to me about those mistakes because I'd rather hear about them up front. We can address it, we can resolve it, than have them bury it and have it come back at a later time and have it be a surprise. But the one thing is, you know, mistakes happen. But the thing that I struggle with, or as a leader, is when we make the same mistakes over and over again, right? You know, it's okay to make mistakes, but it's more important to learn from those mistakes, figure out what went wrong, what adjustments you need to make to prevent that from happening again. All right? Because, you know, same mistake over and over again is you're not learning from that, you're not growing, and you're probably, you know, a person is probably being, you know, not as proactive as they need to be. Time management is going to be very important, right? As you get responsibilities, more and more responsibilities, you're going to get pulled in many different directions. It's going to be important to be able to manage your time, understand how to prioritize, and what things you need to focus on. I'm not a big, you know, listen, you're going to have to multitask, but, you know, I personally have always been prioritize and then knock them down off the list. Get this done first instead of trying to do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and jumping around. I think there was a study that showed like this, the time of, you know, that you get more things done when you just prioritize and then do them sequentially. That's not always possible. You know, as you get to a higher level, you do have to manage your time, and you have other people managing projects, and you have to just check in. But and this is something that I think has been very beneficial in my career. This next item is collaboration leads to better results, right? I've worked for people who think they knew everything, right? And they were very smart, and they probably knew 80% of those things, right? That other 20% were the things where they made mistakes, right? I look at it this way. I have very strong, very talented, and very smart people who work for me, right? And they are very specialized in the various areas that I oversee as a controller. Now, I know a lot about those areas, but they know a little bit more. And I feel when we work together as a team, from a consensus perspective, we're going to get to the right answer more often than if I tell them what the answer is, right? It doesn't mean I accept everything they say. We come back, we have a discussion. In some cases, I say, no, I'm not sure if I agree with that conclusion or that, you know, that perspective, and we discuss it. And sometimes, you know what, I didn't take that perspective into consideration. I didn't look at it from that direction, and we refocus, we redirect. And again, I really feel that consensus and collaboration is going to lead to better results. I mentioned work-life balance. That's something I struggled with early on in my career. I've done a better job of managing that lately and made it more of a focus in my organization. I'm proud to say we only work, you know, a weekend or two, only during the quarter close. When I started at KPMG, my record for a 2-week period was 164 hours, right? So we were working, going to sleep, coming back to the office. And that's probably the big reason why I left KPMG, is because I needed to have that work-life balance. I was starting to have a family. The other aspects of my life were as important as my work aspect, and I wanted to provide, you know, have the right focus on both. And, you know, for you guys, you guys are growing up in this next one is, technology is a game changer, right? I'm just, I'm on the fringe of it, but you guys, the people who are coming through the schools now are a little bit more focused on it, and but it's having an impact throughout my organization. This year, each person in my organization has been giving a goal to find two processes that they do that we can apply some form of artificial intelligence to kind of improve our efficiency. And it's not to take jobs away. It's really to take the processes that are mundane and that don't add value that we have to do, right? The lifeblood of any accounting organization is the reconciliations for which those financial statements are built upon, right? But some of those are tedious. We're matching up thousands of transactions. That can be done in some form of AI that allows you to step back and do the analysis. So I want to take you away or take my people away from doing that mundane and kind of like just monotonous matching and reconciling to being able to step away and see the results, analyze that information, come up with sound conclusions, recommendations for management, perspectives that management may not have had before. That's where the value is, right? So, I'm not looking to get rid of people. I'm looking to put people in positions where they can add more value. And I think that's how technology is going to benefit us. And the last one for you guys, a lesson learned, and I think for some of my younger staff, success takes time, right? I think everybody wants to, be the CFO in 2 years, right? But getting to certain positions just take time and experience. And you can't get that experience but to have gone through all the trials and tribulations of being in finance organization and working in different areas of that organization. So those are the lessons learned I hope you take away. The last slide I'm going to talk about is the role of the controller. That's my role. I kind of see three core areas. One is financial management. The other is oversight and control. And then leadership and strategy is the third, right? So I have some bullets next to them. Obviously, financial management is the accounting and financial reporting, budgeting and forecast. And if you think about what I talked about earlier, the different moves I made, right? They were all to allow me to check certain boxes. And so when I got into this position, I could check every box because I've done everything that is required here. Financial analysis, cost controls, and compliance. So that takes care of your finance side. The oversight controls is, listen, any organization is only as good as the controls that oversee or protect the financial data and information. And now even your technical data, your networks, you need these controls to protect the organization. General ledger accounting, that's the daily debits and credits, the booking of entries, the capturing of the detailed data at the lowest level into your financial systems. We close our books on a quarterly and year-end closes. And then, my organization is the liaison to the auditors. So the auditors come in every year. Now, as an insurance company, we file 2 sets of books. We have a set of books that goes to the state insurance departments, which are very conservative. They're more of like a cash basis, not, they're accrual, but there are certain things that we don't get credit for in our surplus. Surplus is the state regulator's word for equity. So like if there are things that are not very liquid, we don't take credit for that. And then in leadership, we help develop the financial strategy of the organization. We work on improving the accounting processes, which I just talked about with the AI. We provide financial insight to the management teams. We report out. We have business, different business segments as well as the overall CEO. We report out to them. Then we report out to our parent company, which is Fairfax up in Canada. And then, probably like one of my more important jobs is managing my accounting staff, right? And so we're very big on development, career planning. We have a great work environment, and it's just part of it is making sure that, my thoughts on training is that, it's my job to develop you to be the best professional you can be. And, I may be developing you for your next job, but I get the benefit of that work as you're developing, right? So it's a two-way street. You're developing skills, makes you more marketable, but it also makes you more valuable to me, right? It allows you to move and advance, and I benefit from the growth you've had. In most cases, I feel that, that we treat our employees very well, from a culture perspective, from a work-life balance perspective, that you'll want to stay with us, and that's been our experience. But so that's kind of what I do. I did put a slide in here about Crum Forster, but I wanted to leave some time for questions, so I'm going to kind of cut it here. But Crum Forster, just very high level, 2,500 plus employees. We're a property and casualty writer. We do have a small life insurance company. We write A&H business. So, I mean, we're pretty diverse. We have a very strong rating, AM Best A rated, S&P A plus rating. We have capital of 2.5 billion. So very strong company. Last thing is, this is our culture. I'll just leave it up here. I'm not going to go through everything, but rated as a great place to work, 96% rating from our employees. We offer hybrid working. We believe in talent development. There's a lot of things we do. We're very charitable. A certain percentage of our bottom line profit gets donated to charities. It's part of one of the directives that comes down from our parent company. So that's kind of what I wanted to go over. Hopefully you found some value in all that. Again, if I could leave you with one thing, it's like, have a vision of where you want to be, right? And just understand that it's not going to be a straight line there. And at the end of the day, it's good. There are so many opportunities. You just have to be willing to try something different sometimes, and you never know what doors that's going to open for you. Like I said, when I made the jump to CNF, I never thought I'd go work at an insurance company. And the funny thing was, when I was at KPMG, I worked on a company called Foster McKay. They were an engineering company. So I heard Crum Forster. My recollection was Crum Forster was Foster McKay. So I originally accepted the interview thinking I was going to work at an engineering company, which is very consistent with software development, right? Engineering. So, but when I met the people there, you could feel the quality of the people that I was going to work for. They were people I felt that I could learn a lot from. And after 18 years, I feel like, I've learned so much from all of them. And, it's probably the best move I've ever made. And so that was something that was never expected. I never expected the insurance, but I'm glad that I made that move. So with that, thank you for having me today. Hopefully you found some value in some of the things I said. I hope maybe you can take one or two things away and apply that to you as you enter your careers, right? And, I think the sky's the limit if you're willing to put the work in and be willing to try new things and continue to evolve and grow and develop. Thank you very much.
All right, so do you have any questions for Carmine, Metro, Forum, virtually?
I have a question. So, for the individuals who are like more entering the industry that you're training, what have you found to be like some of the key skills that you look for?
So, so what we're finding is we just hired we're hiring a finance major. Like one of the skills he had, because he has a minor in data analytics, right? We were really excited about that. But what it was more of like, what we liked about him was his approach. He was very prepared when he came in. He demonstrated that attention to details. His communication skills were strong. I mentioned earlier that there is a shortage of accountants, and so we kind of evolved into taking people who maybe weren't accounting majors but had an interest in getting into it, but they have they have strong communication skills, they pay attention to details, right? They're engaging, right? They have, in some cases, they have skills that are now crossing over into the data management. I think those, it's kind of that, right? And I think if you can show that you're somebody who's gonna show up every day, who's gonna add value, that's gonna challenge the way things are done and try to do things in a more efficient way, that is willing to learn. Those are all the skills that will make you successful, right? And we're sacrificing that. People have only had, minimal accounting at this point. It's just the nature of what the world is today. Hopefully that changes. People say, "Oh, I want to be an accountant." I think it's probably one of the better majors you can choose, but I'm biased. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions? I think Joe might have a question on Zoom.
I have a question, kind of piggybacking off that previous question. What advice would you give to students looking to break into the finance or insurance sectors?
All right, so, okay. That's a good question, so I didn't think about that. But the advice I'd give you is to, again, try to make a difference every day, right? Don't accept the way things are done. Always try to add value, right? And I'm not saying, there are some things that's just the way they are, but be willing to come in, an honest day's work for an honest day's pay, right? Those are the types of things that, I mentioned, always be willing to learn new things, have strong interpersonal skills. Those are the types of things. And be willing to work hard. I mean, there's no way around that. Sorry, it's not more in depth. I don't have it's not like I don't have the key to success, but I know that if you're willing to work hard, you're willing to go, do the extra and add value every day and learn from what you're doing, you're going to make a difference. The worst thing you can do when you go into a role is just to do it the way they did it, because that's how they did it. I'm not sure if that helps.
Along the same lines, I see you have a BS in accounting. Why did you go for an MBA in finance?
So I wanted to jump over into, so I was in a tax function, very, very accounting focused function, and I wanted to jump over to the business side. And so I got my MBA as my bridge over to the business side. So in the middle of my career, I was managing software businesses, overseeing the accounting function, as well as overseeing the software delivery, project management aspects. And so I wanted to make that jump into the business side. But I also felt it was important to have a stronger business understanding to get to where I wanted to go. Right. And so, my hope someday is that I'll be a CFO. But, some things sometimes, we'll see if I get there, but I feel that I needed that experience to kind of open the door, because I was viewed as a tax accountant. And so when I was looking to move over to the business, I had a contact, or kind of like a mentor who was on the business side, and said, "You need to go back and fine tune your business skills."
I have a similar background as yours, but I went to MBA in finance because I found public accounting very boring.
Well, it's there's a lot to be said for that. I mean, I don't disagree, but
I don't want to miss.
you missed. I'm not sure if you saw my quotes earlier. I'll leave you with this
Sorry,
page here.
sorry, I'm late.
Accounting is the language of business, so always remember that.
Yeah. No, we use that in all our pitches when students come for our open houses. That's what we say. Accounting is the
Day one. Yes, Dr. Collier.
Yes, hi, this is Professor Collier in Florham. I was hoping you could speak to the students more about how the credential of the CPA is important, even if they are not staying within public accounting, because I try and impress that upon them. It's really important no matter where they end up.
Yeah, I have to agree with you, because, first of all, being able to say you're a CPA just demonstrates that you had the commitment to commit, to stay focused to something and pass the exam, right? That first by itself is an accomplishment. But, if you understand what accountants are and certified public accountants, they are truly advisors, right? Most CPAs don't do the debits and credits. Most CPAs are advisors to organizations. They're helping them structure transactions. They're helping them set up businesses, things of that nature. Really, the debits and credits is really just a very small aspect. But for me, it's something that I'm probably most proud of, right? But you get a well-rounded perspective, because when you take the exam, there is a law component of it. So you have to understand business law, right? So you have that aspect of it, and that's a full section. There is an auditing aspect of it. And now when I took the exam, it was a little different. We had to take it all in a 2.5-day period. There is an auditing perspective, there was a tax perspective, and then there was an accounting practice perspective. There were 5 parts when I took it. But, I think, people, I mean, I don't view a CPA as someone who's posting entries to a ledger. I view a CPA as an advisor who is helping to structure transactions. And so it carries a kind of, it's like a badge of honor, if you ask me, that goes along with it. And having that on your resume is when I see that on a resume, for me, it just carries a little bit more weight. And our company feels it's so important that we will pay for you to sit for the exam. So we'll pay for your study course. And when you pass the exam, we pay you by part a cash bonus for passing the different sections. And then when you complete the entire exam, you get one last bonus. And so we're very, we encourage all of our accountants to sit for the exam to get that designation, because it really is a designation of honor, in my opinion. Hopefully you agree, Professor. Did I miss anything?
No, I just, every time I can, I want to emphasize that the CPA is a designation that carries more weight than some of the other certifications that are out there and available and are trying to attract attention.
Yeah, I have to agree, but I'm biased, but
I'm not.
All right, any final questions?
You said you offer that for the CPA studying. When is that for interns and workers, or-
we don't really offer it for interns, because our intern program is a little different. We view our interns more as, we don't do just summer interns. We do a little bit more about me. I worked my way through college, right? So I see the value of, when I see people who are willing to work their way through college, they're more committed, in my opinion, just because I went through it. But they also understand the importance of balance and things of that. So our internship programs are 1-year programs. So we have a fellowship program here at FDU. We have two fellowships that were in my finance area, I think. Another one internal audit. So where you're on for 8 months. We really feel like, I feel like the summer internships are just they just bring you in and it's superficial. You're just skimming the top of it. We do this kind of fellowship program where you're there from September through May, and you are getting into the inner aspects of what, being in an accounting function really is. But we don't offer we have a lot of in-house learning that our interns are available to take, but the CPA exams we don't really offer until they're employees.
All right, if that's all the questions, thank you so much, Carmine, for that.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Hopefully, you found it valuable.
I think all of our members found it very valuable.
Hopefully you guys listen to me more than my kids do.
All
Thank you,
right.
everybody.
All right, so I'm going to share my screen. For those who came in late, forum QR code for attendance, please do, as we are approaching induction night, just 2 weeks away. Just some friendly reminders, cords and stoles are being sold for those who are graduating this semester and would like to get a cord and stole. You can purchase one. $15 for a stole, $12 for a cord, $25 together. As far as pickup instructions, it will be in the office, W18 on the 4th campus. It is in the 2nd floor of the mansion. I will make an announcement on web campus about that in greater detail. And at Metro, it'll be in the dean's office for any of our Metro members or candidates that are graduating.
Can we just, I'd like to just interrupt there. We don't have the stoles in or cords in Metro. So you have to give us if you need to pick it up in Metro, you have to let us know so we can get them there.
Speaking of that, when you do Venmo us, please just mention what you purchased and what campus you're from, so that way we're able to coordinate, if we have to send them out to you. Next week, we will be bringing in CBiz, Emily Hines, becoming person on the Metro campus. So again, if you know any of your friends would come in person for Metro, please do. Lastly, again, the requirements, please, if you're a candidate, please make sure you stay on top of them. We do have our requirements tracker has always been updated daily. You can audit it daily. So again, if you know you need to attend remainder meetings, bring flush of papers, please do. If you need to attend tutoring, please make sure you schedule your tutoring hours first. Then please go see our head tutor, Damian Lugo, for tutoring. Again, we have 2 weeks left, so please, we're in the home stretch here. And then obviously dues you guys don't have to worry about. And then induction day will be April 30th. Did I miss anything? I guess I probably didn't miss anything. What about the election? Oh, yeah. So elections will also be done the same night, April 30th as well. All righty, so I guess that's all for me. Does anyone have anything, Colin, you have anything you want to bring up, or did I cover everything?
I have nothing more.
Okay. All righty then. So that being said, that's it. Thank you all so much, and we'll see you all next week, 4:30 for CBiz. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Will I fall again?